Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the Professor, and this is the Moment of Truth. Brendan Langley is a former NFL player who these days is, or should I say perhaps was, playing for a Canadian football team. Now, Brendan was in Newark, New Jersey, and apparently he was getting ready to check in to board a flight, and he had his luggage with him and he was minding his own business when some airline employee for United apparently thought that he ran the place. But Langley went about his business anyway, but this United Airlines employee started becoming verbally abusive, using all manner of expletives at him. And eventually what happened was, I guess the airline employee decided that if Langley wasn't going to take the bait, he would just go ahead and get physical, because you can go ahead and do that to black customers. The airline will always have your back, and the white media will make sure to take your side as well. Well, Langley wasn't having it. This guy decided to put his hands on Langley, so Langley defended himself. I guess we can call this one when anti-black racism goes wrong. Now here you have an incident where a United Airline employee on video is seen repeatedly attacking a black customer over and over again, repeatedly slapping the man, putting his fists up and challenging him to a fight. Is this what they mean by flying the friendly skies? Langley tries to walk away from this punk over and over again. Customers are telling the United Airlines punk to stop his attack, but the airline punk just keeps attacking anyway. Langley had no obligation to run or retreat. He stood his ground as he should have. And the result? They decided not to arrest the United Airlines punk who started the fight, and the guy who was repeatedly attacking Langley over and over again. They decided they would attack the black man and charge him with simple assault, a clear-cut case of self-defense on video, but we all know the real reason. Now, Langley plays football for the Calgary Stampede, but at last report, they've decided to suspend him because a black man is not supposed to defend himself. That's against the league rules up there, like it is down here. You see, a black man, a black athlete in particular, is only allowed to be aggressive towards other black men, and the Canadians were apparently concerned that his defiance would set a bad precedent. You have hockey players in Canada who have violated and raped children. And you don't see the Canadian sports leagues getting this worked up about that. You see, the reason that this has caused such a visceral reaction from people on both sides of the US-Canadian line is because there's a whole lot of white society who have a huge problem with a black man, black athletes in particular, who stand up for themselves. Doesn't matter if they're defending themselves from a physical assault in an airport or if they're doing something as innocuous and inoffensive as merely taking a knee. White society sees black athletes as $20 million slaves. These are Negroes who have gotten some money and fame from some white corporation. The white media plays their highlight reel, and as a result, these Negroes had better be grateful to the white powers that be. And what that means is they have to deny racism exists, they must never take sides with black people on any issue, and whatever they do, they better not ever talk back to or stand up to some anti-black racist who is verbally or physically assaulting them. If it's somebody who happens to be Caucasian, you're not allowed to do anything. They can just verbally assault you, physically assault you, and you're just supposed to take it, because that's what they pay you for. You see this at NBA games and football stadiums, and even in public places. To these white supremacists, that's the deal that these black athletes signed up for. That's kind of for them, the unspoken, though in some cases spoken arrangement that if we're going to be having a picture of you on my kid's wall, buddy, I better be able to treat you any way I want to, because if you're going to give them that kind of money, I mean, you're getting paid more money than me, my children, and the rest of our family will ever see in all our lifetime. So, buddy, I better be able to just treat you any way I want. That's the mentality that these white supremacists have got. They see black men, black athletes in particular, as being these animals who they've got tamed. And now they have trained this powerful beast to put his strength and skill to work performing tricks for their amusement. No matter how aggressive he may seem on the field, well, all they've got to do is crack the whip and he'll stay in line. They've got him well trained. So when you see one of these young, strong black men using his strength to defend himself or stand up for himself, that terrifies them. The black athlete is supposed to be a creature of sport and nothing else. He is the personification of black male virility, but they've made the black athlete into a symbol of black male submissiveness. So Langley standing up for himself, that hit these white supremacists where they live. There was the old stupid saying that racism doesn't start south of the Mason-Dixon line, it starts south of the Canadian border. Well, clearly whoever said that doesn't know anything about Canada. Canada is as racist as the day is long. Now, after slapping Langley with these trumped-up charges that they know have no merit, the authorities decided to release him ROR because they know they don't have a case. Langley is now currently back in Calgary. Now, the fact that they didn't take the man's passport, the fact that they didn't say he's a flight risk, what does that tell you? It means the white supremacist trash in New Jersey, they know they don't have a case, but they do understand that they have to do something to retaliate against him because he's black. He's a black athlete who stood up for himself, and there's no, we can't have that. No black person is supposed to ever do that. The white supremacist trash in New Jersey, they wanted to make it clear to black people that if we defend ourselves, the authorities are taking the side of whoever attacks us. No different than with the Tulsa race riots and all the other instances where black people have fought back after being made targets. The authorities make it very clear, we're against you. We're going to side with anyone who attacks you. You don't have a right to defend yourself. That's a crime if you defend yourself. It's like the case of John White in Long Island, New York that I told you about. His son was attacked by some punks at a party, and they decided that they would follow his son all the way back home. In the dead of night they did this. And then these three punks, thinking that there was some sort of white supremacist mob of some sort, they called themselves standing outside of John White's home, yelling that he needs to send his son out. John White went out there to confront them and tell them, get off my property. They refused, and when one of them went for his gun, the rest was tragedy. But the authorities did not care that he was on his own property, defending his child who had been attacked. They didn't care about that. What they cared about was he was black. So there was no stand your ground for him. There was no castle doctrine for him. They want to make it very clear that doesn't apply to black folks, and if there's some black person who thinks that it does, well, the authorities are going to make sure that he's the target, and everyone will know it. And by the way, what was the cause of this United Airlines punk attacking Brendan Langley? Why was this United Airlines punk attacking a customer? I mean, it must have been something huge, right? Something enormous, right? Of course not. Somebody had said that Brendan Langley had improperly used a wheelchair to transport his luggage. That's it. That's what it was about. He didn't have a gun. He didn't have a weapon. He wasn't drunk or indecently exposed. He was not disorderly or rowdy. He wasn't arguing with the check-in desk about the cost of a ticket. Instead, someone didn't like how he was moving his luggage around, and that's if we take their word for it. I mean, considering how many lies and how many falsehoods have already been pushed about this, lying by omission, refusing to admit the truth, we gotta take everything we're hearing with a couple of tablespoons of salt. So we don't know if this claim is true, but for the sake of argument, even if it was it that serious? Really? Now, if the racial roles were reversed, and you had a black employee who was hitting a white customer, and the reason given was the white customer was improperly using a wheelchair to transport his luggage, there would be people all over the white media saying, the airline needs to change its policies. You need to retrain that employee. Change your policies. The FAA should change their policies. Who cares about being so precious over a wheelchair? Is it that important? There would be screaming and yelling about changing the rules, changing airline policy to accommodate this one case. That's if this was a black employee attacking a white customer like that. You change the racial roles and people will be saying change the rules. But one thing we do know, and that's this. These white corporations, they don't fire people who attack black customers, and yet they fired this United Airlines punk, and they did so quickly. None of this, we need a review of this. No, they fired him very quickly. What does that tell you? See, I'll tell you why it is that they fired that punk. Airports have security cameras everywhere. So you better believe after this attack happened against Brendan Langley, they went back and they looked at the security footage and they saw that, yeah, their guy attacked him and they're trying to get out in front of this. Well, we fired him before the video inevitably becomes public. We want to be able to say that we fired him. They know that this punk messed up. They already know it. They already know the whole story. They're just trying to get out in front of it. And now they're trying to do some damage control because they're anticipating the legal exposure that they've got. This punk's attack on Brendan Langley has left United Airlines legally exposed to a lawsuit. But you know who else is also exposed? The white media. You had 2 black United Airlines employees who removed an unruly passenger a few years back because the plane was overbooked, and the whole white media lost their minds, such as they are, and there was much screeching and gnashing of teeth that this couldn't be allowed. Airline policy had to change nationwide because of that one incident. The FAA, the federal government, changed their regulations regarding overbooking flights to make it harder for the airlines to remove people simply because 2 black employees had removed an unruly passenger. That's all it took. It wasn't a problem before then. Oh, after that, well, we need to look at how people are being treated on these airlines. Yeah, you need to look at them now, right? Because black airline passengers are routinely subjected to verbal abuse, racial abuse, physical abuse, and we get crickets from the same white media. So what does that tell you? It's not about the safety or security of the flying public. The white media saw 2 black men who were exercising power over a non-black person, and their outrage reflex kicked into overdrive, the way it always does. If you have a black person, be they security or police or a judge, and they use their position to move or command or otherwise exercise power over a non-black person, particularly if it's a white person, then, oh, their heads just explode. It's like, we can't have that. We need some new rules, and that nigger needs to be punished. So the message across the board is clear. If you're black, you are not to use your power for any reason, be it physical power, be it intellectual power, be it the power that's been conveyed on you as part of an organization. You're not supposed to be using that. Well, you can use it against black people. That's fine. But the second you call yourself using that power against a non-black person, watch out, because we're coming for you. Oh, and by the way, just for the record, before anyone asks in the comments section, I have seen a few episodes of that A&E reality show Airline, and like you, I couldn't help but notice that black passengers with Southwest always seem to be the ones most likely to get bumped from their flight if the flight was overbooked or what have you, or if they needed to make room for somebody else. Black passengers always seem to be the ones who get bumped off those flights, and while many passengers on that show were kept off flights for being drunk, it seemed that the black passengers were usually the ones who had the police called on them. Now, white passengers could be loud, belligerent, even threatening. And most of the time, the cops weren't called. You would have the desk agent who would tell the unruly white passenger, you need to go book a flight with another airline because of your behavior. Black passengers, on the other hand, all you have to do if you speak above a whisper, call security, call the police. That show was made a long time ago, but as we all know, with the stories about black passengers on Spirit Airlines and other carriers, black people are still singled out to be bumped off flights, their reservations mysteriously disappear, unauthorized changes to assigned seats and the like. And of course, if you're black, these airline employees can yell at you, they can even curse at you, they can point their finger at you, they can have threatening, aggressive behavior towards you, and even attack you if they wish. And that being the case, even if the airline does miraculously decide that their employee went too far and they have to do something, well, that's okay. The thugs in blue, they're going to be thinking, we're going to go ahead and stick up for it, because there's a principle of black subservience and black people as perpetual targets that must be maintained. Whoever the hell it was who arrested him needs to be sued, and the city of Newark needs to be sued, but most importantly, people need to be fired for this. People need to be in jail for this. Brendan Langley, he was standing up for himself. He was well within his rights. He was well within the law. The man should not be the target of any sort of extrajudicial harassment, which is what's going on here. The man deserves the key to the city. United Airlines should be giving the man free flights for a year. They should be apologizing to him. They should be on their hands and knees begging him not to sue them, which he has every right to do, and he should. He should be suing the doggone pants off him. And that punk who attacked him, he should be suing that scumbag as well. See, whenever black people are attacked, we're supposed to just sit there and hope that somebody else stops it. We're not supposed to stand up for ourselves. We're just supposed to just sit there and take it and, well, hopefully somebody else will do something, preferably somebody who's non-black, and they can do something, but I can't do anything about it because the police will do whatever. No, you got a right to defend yourself. And if the cops want a lawsuit, they can get it too. And as for Brendan Langley, I could really care less whether or not the racists in Canada have decided that they would stand by him or decide that they're going to make a show of solidarity with anti-black violence. The lesson that United Airlines punk and every other anti-black racist out there can take away from this incident is, if you want to practice anti-black violence, nobody's going to sit around waiting to see if someone from the dominant society is going to call a flag on the play. Whoever the person is that you're trying to attack, they'll be the ones to declare that you're out of bounds. Good day, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors. Codified Trucking, Larry Amayo, Miss Debbie, Deborah Cooper, and Paris RBG. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.